Hello, everyone. Let's stop being a vegetable and show everyone who the daddy is. Let's add a little brain to our enemies. So, the first thing we'd like to implement is the enemies appearing on the scene. After their appearance, an enemy should understand where they have spawned and in which direction they should move. The scene boundaries for the enemies will be the same as for the player. From -6.5 to +6.5 on both axes. Let's open the logic branch enemy spawn and switch it to test mode. Simply remove the checkmark for repeat from the on timer block. Now, when the game starts, only one enemy will appear on the screen. To make testing the result even easier, let's cut this connection, and instead of randomly selecting from array, specify any empty object on the right side of the screen. Now, when the game starts, the enemy will appear on the right side of the scene. Let's now move to the enemy move branch. And let's create a condition. We will check the current position of the enemy on the x-axis, and if x is greater than 6.5, then we will move it to the left. We'll take a gate block and connect it right after the on update. Select the comparison operator, greater. To the first channel, we need to feed the current x coordinate, which can be obtained using the getObjectLocation block. Let's separate the x-axis using the separate block. For comparison, let's grab a float block and enter the value 6.5. Now, let's adjust the values in the translate block. If the condition passes the check, it means the enemy should move to the left. In our scene, moving to the left means negative values on the x-axis. Reset the y-axis and enter -100 on the x-axis. Let's format this code block immediately. Move the onUpdate block above, highlight the blocks related to the condition, and add a frame. Label it if right border and choose the green color for it. Next, add a blue frame to the movement block. Label it Go Left. Highlight both frames, combine them into one, with the name Right Border. Now you can start the game and ensure that the enemy, after appearing, starts moving to the left until it enters the playing area of the scene. Then it stops and awaits further instructions. We'll write further instructions later. For now, we need to make sure that all enemies, after appearing, move on to the scene. Let's switch to the enemy spawn branch and change the enemy spawn location to the left side. After starting the game, the spawned enemy will stand still, not understanding what's happening. They also need a script. In it, we should check if the current x-coordinate is less than -6.5. Then the enemy should move their body to the right. The conditions are similar, so let's go back to the enemy move branch. Copy this section of code and place it below. Connect it sequentially to the false channel from the first check. This way, the second check will only be executed if the first check doesn't yield results. In other words, if the enemy isn't on the right, then we'll check if they're on the left. Change the comparison operator to less. Change the value we're comparing to a negative. Also change the movement direction to positive, as we want to move to the right. Update the labels on the frames accordingly. Double-check to make sure everything is in order. After appearing on the left, the enemy should move towards the scene and stop there. Now let's copy this section of code one more time and create a script for those enemies that will appear from the top. Again, we'll feed the check from the previous false channel. This time, we need to change the checked axis to the y-axis. The condition sounds like this. If the current position on the y-axis is greater than 6.5, then move downwards. Moving down means moving along the negative y-axis. Finally, let's copy this section one last time and create a check for the bottom boundary. If the current position on the y-axis is less than -6.5, then move upwards. Now let's see what we've achieved. Switch to the enemy spawn branch and return everything to its original state. Reconnect the random selection from the array. Activate repetition on the on-timer block. Start the game. Enemies spawn from all 4 directions, move on to the scene, and stop immediately after crossing the boundary. Excellent! This scenario will prevent enemies from moving beyond the game scene, following unpredictable paths in search of the player. I think we should probably stop and take a break here. Don't get bored. Goodbye for now.